Oh, hi there. I didn't see you there. Welcome to my channel. My name is David, and I'm here to invite you to join me in some poetry because it is Poetry Thursday, which is the absolute best day of all the days on BookTube. Because a select few of us read and talk about poetry, and few things have given me more joy than diving full into poetry again. And before I get into today's poem, I wanted to give a shout out to a wonderful channel, Mariana Masbooks. Yesterday, she kicked off what I hope is going to be a long term series of Essay Wednesday, where she shared an essay and talked about it. And I'm planning on joining next week with that on Essay Wednesday as well. So I hope you will join us for that and that you will take part in that too, just like you are already taking part in Poetry Thursday, right? Right? Come on. There's plenty of poetry out there across all of history for you to find and read and share a poem every week. We won't run out. And so, those that know, or those that don't know, I suppose, I'm doing a poetry book collection of a month, reading with Aaron Facer and anybody else that wants to join us. And we're working our way through lyrical ballads, the 1798 version, with occasional dipping into the later versions of the collection. And I will say that I think all three of us have found, because Alice and the Giant Bookshelf has been reading along with us and joining in the Voxer chat, and I think we unanimously agree that it is not fantastic. It's got some good poems. It's got a couple of great ones. It's got some not so memorable poems in there. But regardless, it's been enjoyable to go along through it. And so I wanted to not read something out of that. Because there's a lot of other great poetry out there, and rather than try to pick out a poem that I'm not excited to read, I thought I would jump back into my old faithful Harold Bloom collected set of poems of the English language, the best of them, according to his lofty opinions on things, and right or wrong. And I wanted to turn and see what he had in here on Ezra Pound, because a couple weeks ago I was looking at Library of America volumes, and Ezra Pound stood out to me as a poet who I'd like his Library of America volume, both for his poetry and for his translations. And so I've got one poem in here from Ezra Pound, so I figured I'd just read it along with all of you and see how this turns out. From the title, it is very promising to be something that will be very much to my taste. It's titled Plan for the Young English King. So already you've got a great start. And then it has in italics here. That is Prince Harry Plantagenet, elder brother to Richard, Curo de Loyan, from the Provincial of Bertrands de Born. And so here is our poem. If all the grief and woe and bitterness, all dolor, ill and every evil chance that ever came upon this grieving world were set together, they would seem but light against the death of the young English king. Worth lieth writhen and youth dolorous, the world overshadowed, soiled, and overcast, void of all joy and full of ire and sadness. Grieving and sad and full of bitterness are left in teen liegemen courteous, the joglars supple and the troubadours. Or much hath ta'en Sir Death, that deadly warrior, in taking from them the young English king, who made the freest hand seem covetous. Lass! Never was nor will be in this world the balance for this loss in ire and sadness. O skilful death and full of bitterness, well mayest thou boast that thou the best chevalier that any folk ever had. hast from us taken, sith nothing is that unto worth pertaineth, but had its life in the young English king. And better were it, and should God grant his pleasure, that he should live than many a living dastard that doth but wound the good with ire and sadness. From this faint world, how full of bitterness, love takes his way and holds his joy deceitful, sith no thing is but turneth unto anguish, and each to-day veils less than yesteryean. Let each man visage this young English king that was most valiant mid all worthiest men. Gone is his body, fine and amorous. Whence have we grief, discord, and deepest sadness? Him whom it pleased for our great bitterness to come to earth to draw us from misventure, who drank of death for our salvation, him do we pray as to a Lord most righteous and humble eke, that the young English king he pleased to pardon, as true pardon is, and bid go on with honored companions there where there is no grief, nor shall be sadness. So it's a nice little poem. It's in memory of a king, the young king, Henry. And if you know the story of the Planned Jets, then you know exactly what the situations were. But clearly, Ezra Pound felt he was the greatest of the English kings. And this is a nice little poem, a good sample of Ezra Pound. And some of the styling and the choice of words and phrases in there, I assume, are intentionally a little on the archaic side to fit in with the time frame of around when he had lived, he being the king that this poem is written for. And so I thought that was a nice touch, and it, puts me in the mentality of the great poets of Shakespeare's time and before, and shortly after, that range of fantastic poetry that we have. And I enjoy that. And I think that's one of the things I'm going to really enjoy about Ezra Pound when I get around to diving more into his poetry, is that he does have some of those. He's well read, as his translations of things such as, I believe, Horace from the Greeks. He is very well read. He's got a good background, and so he's going to do some of the things that a lot of the later poetry by the Romantics, we're not seeing it much here in the lyrical ballads, but I know there's a lot of callback to older literature and allusions and references that are made, in addition to having poetry that is firmly set in stuff that the every man can appreciate, which Wordsworth ends up doing extremely well later on in his career. And some of them in the lyrical ballads collection, some of the lines upon are wonderful in being something that anybody can hear and enjoy. So I want to know what poets are you interested in? Who is a poet that you've always wanted to explore more of? Because I'll make a point to try to make them be a future Poetry Thursday reading, and I'll find something by them and read it to all of you. Unfortunately, sometimes rather poorly, like today. But the poem itself is magnificent and is well worth your time to take the time to read it yourself with your own eyes, and just cherish the joys that poetry can bring about in all of our lives as we immerse ourselves in this wonderful genre of writing. Thank you, BookTube, and have a great rest of your Poetry Thursday.